Hey, what's up guys, and welcome to the review. Now, this is going to be different. This is a book. In fact, it's not even a book on paper, it's a book specifically and solely digital. Now, I'm not talking about a, small-scale, self-published ebook on Amazon, which I'm a big fan of a lot of them. I'm actually talking about a fourth book in a series that I'm a huge fan of, that is actually now, the fourth book itself is an Audible original. And which is going to be my first point, by the way, but let's get to introducing the book. We're going to be talking about, as you can see in the title, Fight and Flight. Book 4 of the Magic 2.0 series by Myerr. It is, well, it's awesome. Narrated by Luke Daniel. Great narrator. And let's get into it. So this is the first Audible original I've seen and I've listened to. Now, I'm already a huge fan of the series, so I pre-ordered the book before it came out, so there wasn't any question of would I actually listen to it or, anything of that sort, would I actually read the book? I was going to. But when I saw it was an Audible original, I was very curious, because that's not something I've seen before, and it kind of makes me think about how Netflix started doing their originals, and, well, Netflix was already popular, just like Audible is. But then the popularity rose because they started having their own content, essentially started publishing their own content. And seeing that for audiobooks, like, what if there is a really, really good fan favorite series that's popular enough on Audible, but doesn't have the widespread book purchase rate to get more publishings or get more audiobooks. But Audible knows that if they specifically make the audiobook, it's going to sell. And that really excites me. So I now can see a lot more really talented independent authors, or small-scale authors at least, who are going to get picked up by this. And yeah, Audible Originals, the premise of it, really, really excites me. P.S. Audible, if you want to sponsor me, every single book I read is on Audible. And I listen to them on Audible, so hit me up. But, so, let's talk about the narrator next. Like I said, the narrator is Luke Daniels. Now, Luke Daniels, I first discovered him through the Iron Druid Chronicles series, which I am bemused to say is matching in my favorite books of all time, my favorite series list. It competes even, the only book that gets close, maybe except for a newcomer, is even with The Wheel of Time. Now, The Wheel of Time is what got me to writing, got me really into books. Like, I was reading The Wheel of Time, believe it or not, at like the 4th grade. I refused to read till the 2nd grade, and then 2 years later I'm reading Wheel of Time. I know, it's kind of ironic for me to say I hated reading at an early age. But yeah, Luke Daniels is honestly one of my favorite narrators in the business, because he has such a range and a level of skill with how he performs. He's very consistent all throughout. He can hit, like, any accent he needs to do, any kind of character range of voices, and if you have 8 people talking together, you can specifically tell those 8 characters apart. Even if they all have the same accent, he's able to hit very specific, different voices by himself in a crowd of people. And that really, really excites me, because it shows... well, it just shows a lot of skill, and he cares about what he's doing. He's even put out on his SoundCloud audio clips of him. So one thing I like about the Magic 2.0 series is a lot of series, they'll get into the issue where 2 books in, they've had a really interesting premise and it kind of follows the same path with some changes. But 2 books in, it's fine, and you get to the 3rd book and they still kind of stay on the same formula. And it becomes more like one of those crime drama shows where the same thing happens every time, and you're like, oh, this is tiring. Now, books like series like the Dresden Files or Iron Druid Chronicles, they don't do that. But I have seen that happen to books, and that's why I've stopped reading some series. But now, Magic 2.0, they came in with the 3rd book, and that was a complete departure from the other books. Not in, like, the general universe, but in the kind of story it was telling, and like what the problem was and what the villain was. And that was really exciting, because if you don't know, the whole point of Magic 2.0 is computer nerds discover, at different points in history, discover a file that can edit reality. And like all of, essentially, existence is comprised of this file somewhere. That's like just, you can find out on the internet, it ran in like hidden places. And so a lot of, they'll edit it, they'll do something stupid, and they'll like, we gotta get away from trouble, pop themselves back to like the 1500s in England, and they'll be, hey, why don't we go be wizards? Turns out there are other people who found the file, wizards. And so they have, essentially, they're invincible, they don't age, they can't be killed, because magic, and it's all through software too, which is a really cool aspect. But like the entire like premise of the third book is they're essentially kidnapped, a group of them kidnapped, stripped of their powers, and shoved into a poorly built computer game. And when the last two books were about like a wizard gone bad, or like people who shouldn't be playing with, or like people who they thought they respected and they're playing with magic in the wrong way, going to the other side of like, someone's playing with magic in a way you don't like, but wait, they're kidnapping them, shoving them in a computer game, and stripping them of their powers. It's a very, very different and interesting dynamic, because they are fighting for survival, but they're also being forced to play through this computer game that is essentially created to torment them. And then I thought, I had no idea what the next book was going to be. This one, Fight and Flight, I got those two mixed up, and it's also really cool because it does a trope that you can usually really facepalm at, where like the good guys do something that may not be the best idea and just snowballs and snowballs, like trying to fix it, it gets worse and worse and worse. But basically the idea is, because they've been attacked so many times, why don't they practice defensive magic? So one of them has to create something to practice against. Smartly, he creates dragons. But seeing as wizards can just shoot a beam at someone and it just go poof, or shoot a beam at something and it, gets erased from the file, that's too easy. Oh wait, force fields, too easy. Just walls of impenetrable nothing. That's too easy. So once these dragons are better at flying after them, have better, fight mechanics, they can't, the dragons can't be stopped by force walls and can't be just erased with a beam. You might understand that they're kind of hard to kill for wizards who genuinely need these powers. And when something goes wrong and all of a sudden more dragons start popping up everywhere, the wizard's got to solve the problem. But, through a comedy of errors and miscommunication, a young girl living outside of this small medieval town believes the wizards are to blame, and the wizards are bad guys trying to kill everyone, and she goes on a mission to, show everyone the truth, per se, and save the day. And I loved her as a character. Little Honor is the girl's name, and I loved how she interacted with everyone and her different opinion on what's going on, and how you can easily see when they show a scene from they show a scene from one point and then right after show from someone else's, like the other team's per se's views. It gives it a really good, it's done really well, so you can see how what shouldn't be, like those small things are just taken in the wrong context and everything snowballs. I really enjoyed that, to be honest. And like I said, it managed to keep up in a fourth book, a level of creativity and innovation that I expect in the story. They kept changing it, they kept doing new things, but kept the things that a reader and a fan would really appreciate. And that's something that you gotta have in a book like this. Now, like I kind of said, the whole idea is these wizards did something with magic, and turns out magic, instead of someone else using magic poorly and them not having it, their own magic was the problem in this story. And it's kind of this, I don't know if the best word to use is mortality, but it's a really, I like the concept of, let's call it mortality, where they have to realize we have to find other ways of doing this. We have to we have to think outside of the box that we've been in for so long, because clearly what we're doing, as they're realizing more and more, after it's too late, is not helping us. We're thinking about things we have been thinking about things in the wrong way for too long. And that whole concept of showing the vulnerability of these essentially invincible beings that can just rewrite reality is really cool. I mentioned that whole downward slope of like, this is a good idea to save people. Didn't go the way we hoped. Didn't go the way we hoped. Didn't go. And just keeps going down and down and down from when the first moment I said it's like, so we wanted to fight against something to protect yourself, so you created dragons. Great, right? Because dragons are always the best thing to do to create spontaneously. Now, spoilers. I'm gonna get into more spoilers from this point on. If you don't want to be spoiled, you're gonna have a little spoiler bar that'll go away when I'm kind of done talking about specific spoilers. But young Honor, spoilers. Young Honor, the little girl, she ends up she finds allies because no one listens to her. She finds allies in a unsuspected group. Kluge, the barbarian, brute who lives outside the village, and his gang. She actually befriends them, and I love that because you wouldn't expect that, right? But also because we actually get to see another side of the group. We get to learn more about Kluge and his bastards throughout the story. We get to see what really goes on in their group, what the hierarchy is. Like, we get to learn about it, and you don't often get to learn this much about the perceived bad guys or the rogues or the villains, the brutes living outside of town that you really get to see. And it's a great little, insight. It's like if you're watching Guardians of the Galaxy, when you get to learn about all the Ravagers and you get to see like the inside of their lives. And I really, really enjoyed that aspect. Now, for other spoilers, Gary, one of the wizards in the book, if you've been reading up to this point, you know Gary. Gary isn't really appreciated much, and I kind of feel, especially with this book, basically everything he said got crapped on, and at the final end of the book where he's like, he kept asking for high fives, and then someone offered him a high five, and it's like, you had your chance. I'm really worried Gary's going to become a villain or something. Maybe the next book might give Gary the opportunity to get himself some panache or, get himself some respect. Because Gary's a good guy. He has everyone's best interest at heart. But sadly, when you suggest, why don't we have badass warrior women, Valkyries, to fight against? And then, oh, it sounds good. Wait for it. Sounds good. Wait for it. Sounds good. Wait for it. Scantily clad in armor. He does stuff like that. Or he decides instead of using magic to do magic things, he's going to use magic to create Uzis that fire endlessly, or Spider-Man webs. He doesn't really think much. But Gary's still a good guy, and I don't want to see him become a villain, but it really is that tipping point you see in a lot of stories where he could easily become a villain, and I think that's very interesting. Now, the last thing before I wrap up, and for you guys who have read this, or are fans, again, spoilers, but Brit. Now, Brit the Younger and Brit the Elder are essentially a current version and a future version of the same person who are existing at the same point in time, but at separate points in their own timeline, hence Brit the Younger, Brit the Elder. But now at the end of the story, they made the joke that it's like, oh, so Kluge agreed to do this. Wait, Kluge agreed? It takes him a year to agree. And so on Brit the Elder's timeline, as we were to understand now, Kluge, when he agrees to, be their fighting practice at the end of the book, it takes him a year to convince the guy. But on the current timeline, it doesn't. And so that worries, Brit the Elder says, oh, she's joking, that didn't actually happen. But she leaves and she's like, oh God, something is happening. And so the implication that maybe their fates aren't directly, permanently mirrored and connected, that there is actually a possibility for, despite the fact that, let's say Brit went this way, timeline, then she decided to jump back in time, make Atlantis, and then time went forward, and she made Atlantis, this Brit shows up, and, right? So she goes, she pops back, makes Atlantis, other Brit pops up, and they're living here. But she's experienced all this, but somehow this Brit does the same thing that she did, went through the same stuff, and a different outcome happened. What happens there? What is that implication that we're looking at? And while I could say I'd love to see a Gary story, I also really want to see a Brit explanation. Like, those are two things that I really want to see dived into. The implications of Brit's dual life, this free will, question of free will in the timeline, and how connected are their times really? Because in book 2, obviously, Brit the Elder did know everything that happened. She knew. But is she only there because Brit the Younger is alive? Is she there because she is Brit the Younger later? Is she only Brit the Elder because in this point in Brit's timeline, there is supposed to be a Brit the Elder? And Brit the Younger, when she went back in time for the first time, like, and then became Brit the Elder, she met Brit the original, or Brit the earliest, like an even older version of Brit. And, like, it has, like I said, very, very interesting implications that I want to see in the book, in the series going forward. And now that we have Audible Originals, we can! And yep, I cut off the spoiler so you can hear me say that. Now that we have Audible Originals, we can get the answer to the thing I just said that you guys didn't get spoiled for you if you didn't watch the spoiler portion. But that has been it, guys. I didn't say at the beginning of the video because I don't want to be one of those guys that pesters you and has those annoying, like, 30-minute intros where I, like, say some really stupid shit and run my mouth. So I just probably ruined my ability to monetize this video by swearing. Thanks, YouTube. Maybe I'm sticking in the right content to get monetized on stuff, but I'm excited. I'm really excited for this book. I loved it. It may be my #1 book in the series. Honestly, I think it is. It's my favorite book in the series. I'm going to say that now. I'm going to officially say it probably goes 4, 3, and 1 are tied, and then 2. 2's still good, but it just wasn't my favorite. There's very thin lines between the last 3, but book 4 kind of steps above the rest by a little bit. And yeah, if you guys like my video, I love it if you show support or like or dislike of the content with, you know, one of those, up or down. I suggest you do the up one. Tweet at Audible saying they should sponsor me. If you want to see more of my stuff, hit the like button. Hit that little notification icon so you can see when new videos come up. I took a hiatus recently, but I am coming back with a lot more stuff. I'm watching more content. I'm going to try and do a watch through The Office for the first time in my life in 2017 and actually watch The Office, because I hated it the first time I tried to watch the show. So that's it, guys. Again, thank you for watching. This video has been a bit longer than I expected, but hey, it's a book. Maybe you guys want to hear some in-depth talk about it. I'll see you guys later. Peace out.